welcome to the channel. I'm Summer. I'm so excited for today's video. We're switching things up and I am breaking down 4 different haircuts for you all. A little bit of like what is great about them, what's not good about them, and how often you should be getting your haircut when you have these types of haircuts so you can always look your best self. Can't wait to share with you all. Let's get started. All right, we are first going to start off with this haircut that I did a couple weeks ago on the channel. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I did a combination of round and square layers. So I will link this haircut below. I'm gonna link all the haircuts that I'll be showing you guys today below in the description if you wanna see a full tutorial on them. But this haircut overall, it is a more medium to longer layered haircut. There's plenty of shape and movement everywhere in it, but it's not like these super short layers, you know, that are coming up to here. You've got enough difference from the layer to the bottom, but they flow really nice. And then coming along the sides, you can see plenty of movement still, but we overall have a very nice long face frame. This cut, I had a lot of you comment actually that you would have cut the face frame shorter, which I don't disagree with. I would like to see a little bit more of a swoop here, but I wanted to leave it longer for somebody who doesn't necessarily want face frame. I know I'm always like back and forth with whether or not I want face frame. The perks of a longer face frame like this are gonna be for people with fine or thinner hair because you get to maintain more weight and thickness around the face. When you do too short of a face frame, which our next cut we talk about, I'm gonna dive into this a little bit more. But if you cut too much and too short, usually people who have finer, thinner hair, they don't have as much hair in this area or underneath this piece. So if you cut it too short, you've lost all that weight and thickness. So a longer face frame is typically beneficial for finer, thinner hair types. It's great too for like somebody with thick hair. It just depends on what you want. But you are able to maintain more weight and thickness with a longer face frame overall. And then with this particular amount of layers that we have in the medium to long face frame, routine for keeping it up, I always used to recommend to clients anywhere from like an 8 to 10 weeks in all reality. Sometimes you would need maybe this touched up a little bit sooner, but because the layers are longer, they don't tend to lose their shape quite as fast if they were shorter. When the layers are shorter, you're able to get like more body and fullness and you get a lot more bend and just more texture. That grows out faster. So you do need to get that cut more frequently. But something like this, 8 to 10 weeks, if you want to get it cut sooner, you can. But typically, I always found that the sweet spot, I would have a lot of clients with a haircut very similar to this, and we would just cut it usually like every other time. So if I saw them every 5 weeks for their roots, I would cut their hair every other time. We might like do a little bit of what I call a dusting one of the appointments just to, you know, if their ends were like a little bit frayed. But overall, this is a really nice low maintenance haircut that doesn't require a lot of time either cutting on your own at home or in the salon, because a lot of what a haircut is making sure you get it cut on time. Because if you don't, that's when you get in this position of where you're like, I hate my hair. That's what I'm struggling with right now. I cut my hair, it's been 8 weeks, which it's up in a pony right now because it's driving me crazy, but it's been 8 weeks since I last cut it. I have a tutorial on that as well. And probably about 3 weeks ago, so it would have put me at 5 weeks, I was like, wow, my hair really grew out of nowhere. So I am gonna cut it again here soon to shape it back up to where it was when I originally cut it. So now that we've broken down a more longer face frame, medium to long layers, I'm gonna grab my next mannequin, which is going to be a nice face frame that's shorter with a little bit of that curtain style bang. All right, here we have a curtain bang. This is a shorter length. But as you can see, we have this nice swoopy curtain bang. It's parted in the middle, which a curtain bang is always gonna be parted in the middle. That's the look of it. If you're on the side, it is a side bang. And I have a comparison video on side swept or curtain bangs, like kind of the difference between the two. But she has, I would still say that this is a medium layered haircut. They're maybe a little bit shorter than the first haircut we went through, but they're not like ridiculously short all the way around. But as we move into this face frame, you have a lot more movement that's cut around the face and weight that has been removed to make that a really nice swoopy face framing haircut, which a lot of people do like. A lot of people don't want as much movement going on in their back because it's, for one, harder to maintain. It's a little easier to style the front of your hair versus the back is a lot more work. So that's where a haircut like this is really nice for somebody who wants a lot of movement in their face. Maybe they want to accentuate their cheekbones, really open it or widen their face. This type of haircut is great for that. The point of a curtain bang is you usually want it to come in right about this cheekbone area where it really accentuates those cheekbones. It kind of brings some nice attention to the eye that I love. While this is a great haircut and can be a really fun look, it is a much higher maintenance haircut because you have so much more length cut off. If you want to maintain that nice swoop that you see with a curtain bang, usually I always suggested anywhere in a 4 to 6 week time frame is what I recommend for getting your haircut when you have this type of a haircut. Curtain bangs, you always want to have sort of that swoop. So once they get too long, I'm not saying you can't have the swoop, it's just not quite the same look. And if you love the way that it looks when you first get it, and if it's shorter in that cheekbone area, you do need to maintain that on a monthly to 6 week basis. Otherwise, it's just gonna get long and you're gonna be driven crazy from your bangs, always falling in your face. And that allows you too to keep a nice face frame going through your sides here, so that maintains that nice look that just blends everything in together. I do like it when it flows nice into a nice face frame. I think it just sort of like makes the look pop. And then I like to just lightly blend it through the back so you have minimal movement. You could choose to leave a layer like this longer. These type of layers though in the back are gonna fall into the same category as our first haircut. Every 8 to 10 weeks. I would say if you're gonna be there to get your front touched up, you might as well do it, but you won't need nearly as much taken off in the back as you would in the front, just because this is gonna really lose its shape much sooner than this would. Okay, so now that we have broken down our 2 layered haircut options, I'm gonna go grab 2 more mannequins. I'm gonna be breaking down a bob and a Bixie, which I love. A short, textured, fun cut. Before I grab those mannequins, I wanna hear from you guys though in the comments if this type of video is something you would like to continue to see, breaking down the haircuts, how often you should be getting it cut. Maybe if you wanna have styling tips, breaking down the different ways you can style each haircut. Let me know, I love connecting with you guys. I wanna make sure I'm giving you what you want here on the channel. So I'm gonna go grab my bob and my Bixie and we'll come right back. Alrighty, we are in bob land, which I love a bob. I feel like they're a little out of style right now or not as popular, but they are so near and dear to my heart. A bob is actually, along with just a general Pixie, one of the most high maintenance haircuts that there is. And that is because typically with bobs, you have a good stacking here in the back. Everything is lifted up, tightening in the neck. Usually you have this nice angle that goes towards the front. It's a very precise haircut, and because of that, any precision haircut is always going to require much sooner time, either getting it cut on your own at home or in the salon. So that's something always to make note of. I mean, if you want to grow it out, you grow it out, but even growing it out actually does require some maintenance that I'll touch on in a bit. But because of this nice clean line that we get, it's just one of my favorites. This, when it grows out, loses its look really altogether. And typically what happens when you get these pieces that are stacked, they start hitting lower on the neck. And that's when they kind of get that like whole flippy thing going on with the bob, which is like the #1 complaint with clients who like wearing a bob, is it gets flippy here and it drives them crazy. They don't like it on their neck. I mean, even if you did a longer version, once you get to a certain point, you get that flip and it really kind of loses its style. But typically bobs don't have a ton of layering. I think I added some layers to this one playing around with a potential future haircut. So she does have some, but it's usually very, very slight, the amount that you do. You can layer it, but typically most bobs are meant to just be a real soft layer where you have some weight removed and you get a little bit of movement, but you maintain like a nice full look. And then through the sides, because you want to have this angle, you typically don't do a bunch of face framing. Again, she has a little bit because I was playing around, but typically like this piece here would be fully thick right in here and keep a heavier weight line. I have a great bob tutorial. It was like one of the first tutorials I think I did on the channel, and it's like my baby. She's so near and dear to my heart that I'll leave her linked below. But usually women who want bobs do tend to like more weight and thickness through their face. You could soften it up. Like this mannequin is about as much as I would cut into a bob around the face, which is as far as like me suggesting it. Do what you want by all means, but I really feel like it loses its look if you face frame too much. I mean, she's parted down the middle, but even if you did it to the side, it sort of loses the like thick and heavy weight. I'm not saying you can't do it. I just love the way it looks when it's all thick and long, but you really get that nice severe angle in here. I just love it. But yeah, I mean, she's got a little bit of layering, nothing crazy, but enough that you can mess this up and add some texture to it with either a paste or curling. So as far as cutting this in salon to keep it nice and tight every 4 or 5 weeks on the dot. Like you can't go past that, but if you like it to be looking nice and clean, like when you leave the salon that you're obsessed with it and you're like, oh, I love my hair, it's so great, 4 to 5 weeks. Otherwise it's just gonna be losing the way that you want it to lay. When I had a bob similar to this, that would always be my routine. Maximum of 6 weeks, but even at that, I still would be like, I need a haircut, I need a haircut. Growing out a bob, I would say probably your first haircut, you won't need to go back in for at least like a good 8 weeks, and you'll just have either the back nipped up more, maybe blend it out a little bit better, but you will need some cutting when growing out the bob just because they're such a precise haircut that the grow out isn't always so easy. So just be prepared to needing a couple cuts in between. So I'm gonna grab my Bixie now, which is very similar to a bob, but with more face frame and shorter. Alrighty, so a Bixie is a mix of a Pixie and a bob combined into one. I have a tutorial on this as well that I'll leave linked below. But so you see it's tighter and stacked similar to a bob, but you don't have quite as much of that angle going forward. It's a little bit more even all the way around through the sides, but then you have all that nice face framing through the front to give like that piecey, open the face up, highlight those cheekbones, accentuate the eyes. These haircuts are great for tucking. I love the way like a shorter Bixie looks tucked, and then you have much more movement all throughout the cut. So a lot more texture. This is heavily texturized, a little bit of razor work typically. You've got your much shorter piece here, so there's much bigger difference between your top layer and the bottom where the bob, it sort of blends in a little bit better. So this cut is almost like a hybrid of the bob and our face framing layer that we talked about earlier. Because of this face framing, you're gonna need regular haircuts just like the other one. This is a little bit shorter, a little bit more piecey, cut into more, which is gonna require honestly, like on the dot every 4 or 5 weeks is what I would recommend. It's very similar to a bob, but these pieces around your face are gonna drive you crazy if you don't upkeep them, where a bob, you don't have that so much. And you're gonna need these layers. A lot of times my clients that have the shorter Bixies, it's always the top. They're like, cut into this. This is driving me crazy. And that's because you get more weight as these top layers grow. So the more weight, the more it's gonna weigh it down, creating a flatter look. So if you like a lot of fullness and messiness in your Bixie or Pixies, this top layer is probably always gonna need to be cut into. So even sometimes with the Bixie, like I would have clients that I would nip the bottom area and blend around their face and then just kind of go in and like freehand cut through the top because this would be too heavy for them, but they liked the shape overall. So it all really just depends on how your hair grows, but a Bixie Pixie, I would say with the bob, are much higher maintenance haircuts where you need to be in there every 4 to 5 weeks. Some hair types and the rate your hair grows, you need it every 4 weeks for sure, and then even sometimes need it every 3. If you're one to cut your hair at home, just be aware of that. Like make an appointment with yourself, same as you would with a stylist, because time gets away from you. Like I think that I just cut my hair like 2 weeks ago and it's been 8 weeks and I'm wondering why. It's driving me crazy. So mark it on your calendar, like make an appointment with yourself or at the salon. Just make sure that's your time that you prioritize, because otherwise what ends up happening, time goes by, you get in a rut, and then you're like, I hate my hair, what's wrong with my hair? And 9 times out of 10, like you need it cut again and it'll look how it did when you loved it the last time. So hopefully this is a video that you guys enjoyed. I enjoyed breaking down these different cuts. I tend to get a little long-winded, so I apologize if I was too talkative, but hopefully you enjoyed it, learned something. Let me know in the comments if you would like to see more videos like this. Again, something on styling too as well. I would love to show you guys some styling tips for each haircut and how some are similar or not so similar. So thank you for being here, and I'll see you on the next one.